Where did you go? Okay, I'm running a little late and looks like I'm pretty laggy. This had to update and I'm out spraying surround to cover the greenhouses, get some shade on them, considering it's gotten hot out there. Oh yeah, real laggy. Got stuff on my computer too. Okay, let's see if I can stop whatever is taking all of my computer power. Okay, there we go. Now we're up and running. I think. Still there? Cool. There we are. All right, so this is actually the fourth Thursday Q&A because the third Thursday Q&A did not happen because I lost track of the time because of the day of the month that it actually started. I'm going to go ahead and so I guess sign into chat. I don't even know if I'm up and running. Let me make sure that we're actually live here. And yes, it says that I am live and we are up and running. So I guess what I'm going to have to do is the backwards way of doing this and look at my messages through here and just keep myself muted. Do I have audio going? Audio input capture. And yes, it says that I am live and we are up and running. There we go. Yeah. So I guess what I'm gonna have. Nah, I can hear myself. So, just typing out to put your questions in the box. Okay, so we'll get to the questions here in a second. But first, doing a lot here on the farm. It's gotten really hot lately, so people aren't real big on hanging out in the greenhouses very long. That's why I was out there. I actually use Surround WP, and I mix it per instructions, and I use a hose, or not a hose sprayer, a garden sprayer, pump up sprayer, and I spray the top of the greenhouses. It cuts down quite a bit. I just kind of speckle it, and I'll work my way up if it's getting still hot in there and I want it more shaded. So it just kind of depends on the time of year in the season. What are your favorite variety of leafy greens to grow during the summer? We almost exclusively grow the Sal Novo varieties in the summer. They are just about the most bolt tolerant and resistant to going bitter, but you have to harvest them early in the morning. That's the main trick, is the early in the morning harvest. I've actually found as well, when they start to bolt up and turn into Christmas trees, you go out there right at daybreak and cut them off. Very little latex comes out of them. You throw them in a tote whole at that point and let them sit overnight. That'll send it back through a nighttime cycle. So it'll suck all of those bitters and latex back into the stem, and then the next day you just kind of go and pop them off, put them in the wash tank. Tastes just like the rest of the stuff, no matter what the age of it is. You just get a little bit bigger leaf, and if you've got insect pressure or anything else out there, you'll gain more of it. We have done some of the all-star mixes and other mixes like that. The biggest problem is they get about that tall before they start to bolt. We prefer to have a bigger leaf. I want something not quite the size of my hand, but partially the size of my hand for our leaf size. Everybody else cuts it down afterwards. And that's purely for, I guess, labor to harvest ratio that we get. During the summer, I will say that the yield goes way down. We are looking at usually about a ½ pound per foot. Overwintered in spring, where you can get 2.5 pounds a foot off of a bed of leaf lettuce. And we're planting that 4 rows wide, 8 inches in between row, 6 inches in between plant. We do all that in the landscape fabric. Even though the landscape fabric's black, it does not matter. It actually shades it out somewhat. We do use 30% shade cloth because in our region we are sun from literally this horizon to this horizon, so we have sun all day long. Very little cloud cover, nothing to block it. Uh, Originally, we'd only do the shade cloth for the first 2 weeks, but came to discover that taking it off was actually detrimental. Actually found this out on accident by just, it got left on, left there. That bed looked way better than the rest. So pretty much once it's 90 degrees, shade cloth on, and it does not come off. We do have a little bit of an issue with the grass coming in when it gets this hot. So when your little tiny hole in the landscape fabric, you got your plant right here. But all of this is able to grow stuff. And it will grow stuff. The weeds, like carpet weed and purslane, really aren't that bad of a thing here. They grow, but they won't take over and keep too much moisture in the bed, so it'll dry out. But the grasses will. The grasses will take over prolifically. One little clump of grass in there in each of those holes, and by the time you go to harvest, that whole bed will be grass, and you've got to either cut around it or just abandon the bed. I've got one bed I've got to abandon. I did go out earlier today for a little bit and actually weed some of the holes. We take cutters and we just go down into it and just barely below the surface and cut the grass off on the roots, because if you leave that little node above the surface, it'll grow back. Have found that out from experience. Also, you can't just pull them out if they've gotten big, because it'll pull the whole dirt clod up with it, and lettuce roots are so shallow that it'll pull the plant up with it and it won't recover. Learned that the hard way as well. Also, do not send a volunteer out there to weed and fabric like that, especially with lettuce, because they'll just rip everything up and you'll regret it. You really have to use a technique. For a 50-foot bed, it takes about an hour to go through all those holes. Not a huge amount of time in the scheme of things when it allows you to have a crop that's much more profitable than that, but that's also an hour I can be doing something else with. Only have to do it once. So that's one good thing. But that's basically the summer lettuce program. We're starting transplants, we're planting them out, just like we do all season long anyways. See if I can get into some more questions here. Okay. Well, like I was talking about earlier, been doing a lot here. Like out front, we got the farm stand up. First time putting it up, I just kind of put a table out there, got a sign for it. It's actually been working great. Way better than I expected. Had one incidence of people stealing stuff on it, and they literally took a whole entire flat, like a big flat of stuff. Joke's on them kind of, because I'd been moving stuff back on the table because we have excess zucchinis and squash that we've been putting out there. So as the product was getting soft or kind of showing the age of the sun being on it, which it very rarely is up there, I've been moving them back into that tote and then setting fresh ones on top to make it a higher looking pile. So the majority of stuff in there was ready to be gotten rid of anyways, but they took it, so I mean, no big loss. The biggest loss was the tote. I mean, those totes are expensive. They can be anywhere from $10 to $20. But so far, nobody's messed with the money box, as far as I know. Money still is in it every day. I check it probably 2 or 3 times a day just to make sure, and always check it before dark. The temperatures really haven't affected anything yet. I've got yellow zucchini out there, I've got green zucchini out there, and I got cucumbers out there. I do some bags of radishes and stuff, which are kind of hit or miss. You can do turnips and things like that, but you have to bag them because they will desiccate real quick, so they start to get soft. Same thing with kohlrabies, cabbages, anything like that. But I found they sit out there. Kale, you get about 3 days out of. So you've got to transfer the bags. We have way more kale than we ever know what to do with, because I think people just don't like kale this year. The other thing I've been working on is put a question out there on the Market Garden Success group the other day, because our sales are down. Our sales are down quite dramatically, actually. I think we're about 50% of what we were doing last year. So I decided to put the question out there and see if anybody else was experiencing the same. There are a lot of farms out there right now that are like 50 to 75% down in sales from last season, which is just crazy. So I put together a survey and put it on there as well. I put together surveys, very simple. They're all multiple choice answers. The only information you provide is your name, your farm name, and then your general location, like your city, your state, and that's about it. What's funny is that there are some people on the Market Garden Success page that were so concerned about what are you going to do with my data. They're looking at this on Facebook. Think about all the data that Facebook extracts directly from your cell phone while you're looking at Facebook. So my goal was simply to get an overall health picture of the market garden community. None of the personal data was going to be attached to any of the farm data, not including farm name, your name, or any of that, or email address. Those were collected specifically so we would not have any duplicates. I need to make sure the data is clean. I actually worked with NIST for 4 years, National Institute of Standards and Technology, on data collection and data analysis. So I have a really good idea of how I'm going to analyze this. If I can get a big enough pool, I can really break it into regions. I can break it into farm sizes by income. That's why we want to know the income on it. And then also, ask a bunch of other questions in there too of, hey, if we're all in need, possibly if we have a big enough response and volunteers, we could send this out to congressmen, local, state, federal, and say, hey, we've got an issue going on here with the small farm community, and these are the lack of resources they don't have, which could potentially make them more profitable, even though we know the sales is the main part of it. So that's where all that kind of comes in. Just kind of get an idea of, initially I just want to see I have the ability to do it. That's why I did it. It's all done through an Airtable where you just fill out the form, you click on it, and it submits. It only comes to me. It's not going to anybody else, and I'll never sell any of the data. That's not what I'm aiming for at all. I'm just trying to get a big picture of everything. We used to do it back in the lab every year. We would report in numbers of, number of employees, how many times we work, what kind of stuff we're testing, how much is off that we're testing that we have to recalibrate. And those would all go in a big giant pool, and there'd be a summary report at the end of the year, which was super interesting to look at the scope of everything in the different regions, because we were broken into regions as well, and sizes of how different labs work. So it's really great information to have, and if you don't have data, you can't ever do anything about it. So how do you keep the condensation down on your salad green bags at market? That's a good question. We wash, then we spin, then we go on the drying table, but not too much. We start with cold product to begin with, use cold water, and then bag it, run through a bag taper, throw it in the walk-in. You do build up condensation to market. The best way to get rid of that is actually just to bounce the bags back and forth in between your hands. It actually will just drop the condensation off. I've heard other people where they'll make all the bags up, but they don't tie them on top, and they leave them in their walk-in like that in an open container, so there's nothing on top, and supposedly that gets rid of some of it. But no matter what, you're going from a roughly 36 to 38 degree walk-in to temperatures that are 90 degrees. You're going to have condensation no matter what, because lettuce is alive, and lettuce is pushing out moisture and oxygen constantly. It's still growing in that bag, that's why it's still green. If it was dead, it would be brown and nasty looking. So there's limited stuff you can do, and that's about it. I mean, that's why in the grocery store when you buy a bag of lettuce, there's this little tiny window here, and the rest is all like colors and decorations on the bag. That way you can't, necessarily see the condensation, and by the time you pick it up and look at it, maybe turn around and look at it, most of that's falling off as well. So there's really not that much of a good way to do it. Vented bags I stay away from because then the bag smushes down, and I don't want to buy a bag of lettuce that's all flat and mushy looking. When you put air in the bag, they're a nice tubular, tall, like standing thing. They just look so much better on the shelf as well. Okay, so what else do we have here? Go into and look. Okay, so working my way through it. Does the water go through the landscape fabric? Yes, it does. Does not always do it at first. Usually it takes a couple days for the fabric to like loosen up and release. It always freaks people out with new fabric, but it will go through eventually. That's why I will not use new fabric during the summer, and we have tons of it out here anyways. We were at this scale this year. We're kind of like down here at this scale, so we have enough to do this and a little bit more. So we don't always have to pull stuff immediately off the field to turn it, and that during the summer, nobody really wants to do that anyways. And then we've got let's see here. I'm just sorting through them. If you use fertilizer on your landscape fabric, we do it beforehand. That's about the only time we fertilize before. Like the tomato and cucumber house, I've got a easy flow injector because the mezzis that they sell all over the place for dirt cheap suck. They don't work. Um, Never found anybody to have any luck with them. One trick I did find that somebody posted once was you put a piece of wire through the center so the nozzle in the center is compressed more. Cuts the flow, raises the pressure, should suck through better. Don't know. I bought an easy flow because they suck. We do use a liquid fertilizer, a Neptune Harvest, that we periodically put out about every week or two on the tomato and cucumber houses just to keep them vibrant and vigorous and growing. Also use AgriGrow Ultra in there as probiotic. I found if I run it in my cucumber house, last season I did not have any bacterial wilt or cucumber mosaic virus drop, so that was awesome. Usually we get the cucumbers to the top and then they die, and then we just cut them out when they die. This last season, doing that treatment and a little bit of extra worked great, and I have been growing these same two varieties for 3 seasons now. So it has to be probably the AgriGrow because it's a prebiotic. That's the only thing I can figure. It's making the soil healthier, the plants healthier, so they're just not as susceptible to the disease because there's cucumber beetles everywhere. I mean, not like massive swarms of them or anything, but you go in there and there's one. A couple plants down, there's another one. So they are not completely absent. We don't spray anything in there because I found that it's not worth the amount of time to do it. All right. Had some questions about the automated side curtain openers. I got a couple great videos on that. We also do put those kits together and sell them if people don't want to tackle the task of actually putting together. And they're just trying to figure out. Oh yeah, this was a great one. What I constantly get is people with openers. They don't, a regular opener, you set it to a certain temperature, 5 over, 5 minus, or 5 in the range around it. It goes up or down. So you can't say open up the greenhouse at 70, close it when it turns 50. I figured out a way to do that though. So the trick is you get one of the Inkbird heating and cooling ones, and then you run a power lead off of each side of that to your power supply. You only need one negative that comes in, but you take them both in the same lead because that controller, the heating and cooling will never be on at the same time. So by doing that, you're only allowing the power supply to kick on, which controls the up and down of the side curtain, when it gets past those set points. So it's kind of hard to fully explain, but like the power supply would not be on in between, say, 50 and 70. It's only on here and here. So when it's in between the two, it's never going to turn on. So it's really, well, I guess you could flip them backwards and get it to do the other way and just do it inside of this range. Well, the opposite, which would open it, yeah, that don't even bother with that. So if you do turning on your heater, which would be this one, your lower set point, once it gets below this temperature, then it's going to turn on the power supply. Your set point on the thermostat over here is in between these two, so it's already engaged. Temperature drops, this engages, takes it down. Then once it heats up in the morning, it comes up, thermostat's off because it's up here, so it's already on the down command. Temperature raises to here, it clicks your thermostat does nothing. When it gets up here to this set point, now this tells the power supply to turn on. Your thermostat's already on, so then your side curtain goes up. So that'd be your cooling. It's cooling because it's opening up the side curtain. When it comes back down, same thing. Once you get inside of here, your power supply shuts off, so it's not going to do anything. Your thermostat right here will click to the down mode basically, and then down here tells your power supply to turn back on, so it goes back down. Um, really roundabout way of doing it. I don't know a better way. Not sure how well it actually works using those little RIB controllers that we use, or if you'd have to use one of the double L group analog controllers, because the analog one goes no matter what. But the other one would have to power on and off. Yeah, it probably still would work, because you're actually just turning the power supply on and off. It's giving the same commands no matter what, so it's tripping either way. So yeah, no, that would still work great. All right. I'm sure when I answered that question originally, they did not understand me at all. But I do believe it would work. Let's see what else we have in here. Okay, I had a question about leaf spots on beets. I was using the Boromino product. They're asking if that's the same as CalMag. No, that's not. CalMag's calcium magnesium. Boromino is boron and nitrogen only. So it gives it a little boost of nitrogen. We've actually been harvesting the beets. They're doing good. They need water. It's been really, really dry here, like everybody else has not been. But we have not had a significant rainfall now in probably 2 weeks, so it's getting dry here. We definitely need some rain. We just don't need a big thunderstorm. Um, can you use the upright freezers for your germination chambers, like the fridge I converted? Yes, you can. Just don't drill through the side because that's where all the coils are. You will toast it. And the biggest thing about the pack house right now, you can probably hear it next to me. I've got the reach-in refrigerator in here that we keep at 50 for our cucumbers and tomatoes. But the condensing unit, the air conditioner, is in here. So it's pumping all the heat out in here, which is making it miserable in here. It's actually worse in here than it is outside. I've got the doors open in front of me a little bit, but they're not doing all that much. Plan is that right there. So that is actually a basically a cowl to pump the air out off the back of the air conditioner. So this will actually attach to the window air conditioner, and then it's got a box behind it, and then a 4-inch pipe that'll connect to a flex duct, and then an inline exhaust fan out here, and it'll blow that all directly outside. That way any heat that's pumping off of the window air conditioner itself will go outside. The other option was to cut a hole in the building, and you can do that. I've already decided that. The other solution would be put it outside. I'm not going to do that either. The real solution was going to be, originally there were supposed to be 2 walk-ins in here. One to be at 50, one to be at that 38 to 36 sweet spot that everything else is held at. That never happened. Really don't see it happening. The other solution could be get some more walk-in panels and put them on the edge of the fridge. Cut a hole in the top, put some kind of temperature-activated louver on there, so then it'd suck air out of the walk-in, another hole at the bottom, or suck air in from the walk-in, another hole at the bottom to relieve the pressure back into the walk-in. So basically I'm just stealing air out of the big walk-in to cool the little walk-in to the temperature I want it. So I'd only cool it to the 50 instead of like the big walk-in, which is down at 40. Shouldn't be a problem. The condensing unit in that walk-in is just about the smallest you can get. And if I remember right, I can double, almost triple the size of that walk-in and have the same condensing unit in there. It'll just run more. So being oversized for that purpose is a good thing. Being way oversized, like if I had a 3-fan one in there, they have way too many problems because they're turning on and off too much. It's cycling too much. They just put wear and tear on themselves doing that. But that's another project down the road. Also been making noodles lately. I need to get something together for that. I've got the noodling station finally up and built. We're doing daikon noodles, zucchini noodles. So I'll let everybody know on that. Maybe next week, maybe the week after. Got another project out in the front yard in front of the house, which I want to show everybody, but you'll have to wait for that. It's almost there, almost. And then I should probably walk around and do a farm tour. and show you things that are growing great and things that aren't. And the greenhouse has kind of been somewhat abandoned because I'm out in the field. And yeah, you know that thing when you got too many things going on, not enough time. I'm that guy. I actually have 2 employees out this week, so I'm making up for that as well. So needless to say, right now instead of harvesting zucchinis, I'm going through and I'm taking zucchinis off this big every 4 days or so, just so the plants keep producing fruit. I mean, we've got plenty from the weeks to harvest earlier this week. I think we had 2 harvests off them. But I need to take those off to keep the pressure off the plants and keep them producing more fruits. Especially with these hotter temperatures, it's really going to knock them out. Oh, planting density of my potatoes. This year I'm doing 2 rows, 6 on 6. I believe I did a video on that as well. So 6 inches between row, 6 inches in row. The hope is to get a whole bunch of little bee-sized potatoes, you know, something like that big to like that big. That's what I'm aiming for. It'll be great. The the potato plants are just now dying. So I've got at least 2 weeks before I can get them out of the ground. So it's probably going to be the week or two after July 4th that I get to that. I'd like to get them out earlier, but next week, right now we're getting the garlic out, we're getting the beets out. Next week is going to be start of carrots. I got 2 full 90-foot beds of those, and we can't get them out very easy. They don't just pull out like people in the sandy soil have with really heavy clay. So we've got to assist them a little bit with a pitchfork. So that's always fun. But I've never found a good way to do it with a tractor because our tractor is not big enough to pull a bed lifter. So yeah, there's that. And on top of that, you know, they've been in the ground so long, we have grass pressure out there. It's horrible. I've been, for the past 3 weeks, going through with the weed eater and just weed eating down the walk paths. So just going down the little walk paths and just taking it and kind of as I go through it. Keeping the grass down. Hasn't gone to seed yet. Knocked down the purslane. So that's always good. Oh, can I explain the 200-pound equivalent of nitrogen? So, I've done this in the past. I have a converter on ourconvertfarms.com. Scroll down almost to the bottom, digital tools and training. I think that one's still on there for free. It converts, put your nitrogen source in there, so the number off the bag, and then it'll convert it to, or you tell it it's your ideal pound per acres in your bed size, if I remember right. And they'll tell you how much to apply for that one bed size based on square footage. Basically what you're doing is you're taking 200 pounds per acre. You need to start with your fertilizer, like an 855. So in order to get your 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre, let's see here, you're going to take 200, divide that by 0.08, because there's 8% nitrogen. That's what that first number is. So in order to get 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre on a full acre of land, you need 2,500 pounds of an 855 fertilizer. Now you take that and then you, let's see, cross multiply and divide. Yes. So then you take that number and take it times 42,530. No, we divide that. That'll give us our square footage. So it's 0.05 pounds of fertilizer per square footage. Market garden beds are, what, 50 by 2.5, so that's 125 square feet. Mine are 40, which makes it 100 square foot, which is a lot easier, but we'll go with the market garden. So we take that number. Oh, what did I do? There we are. I was hitting numbers. Take that times 125. So that's 7.3 pounds of 855 that you put on your bed. That's how you do the calculation. So you take your desired pounds per acre, divide it by the percentage of nitrogen inside of the fertilizer. So the 8's like divide by 0.08. It's 5 divided by 0.05 and so on. Then that tells you how many pounds you need for the whole acre block. Then you divide that by the number of square feet in an acre, which I believe is 42,530. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. You can look it up online real easily. You take that resulting number and multiply it by the square footage of your bed. And that's where you get that number from. Then you take your nifty little drop seeder and you sit inside of a building here and you do a half a bed or whatever worth, 25 feet across the floor, and you push it, and then you sweep it up and weigh it, or weigh it beforehand, push it across, dump it out, weigh it after, you know how much you dumped. Keep cutting little tabs out till you get the desired density with your push seeder. It's the best way I found to do it. I've got mine almost perfectly calibrated to 100 pounds per acre equivalent when I push it. So I go down once, it drops about 3.5 pounds. I go back, it drops another 3.5 pounds. That's roughly 7 pounds, maybe a little more or less. Speed doesn't matter. My pellets are big, so the holes are bigger. But that's the way you come up with it. And then automatically you have 2 preset settings. I can drop 100 pounds per acre or 200 pounds per acre. And it makes your life so much easier than trying to drop 70, 60, and 50, and 40. Organic fertilizers will sit in the soil and wait for you. Synthetics do not. They wash out. So that's the number one tip right there. I always try to keep with my theory with keeping your soil healthy is make sure it's balanced, number one, make sure your pH is right. And the second is keep everything towards a max value. So you think of it as a gas tank. So if I always keep my tank here, and then I burn my crop out, I'm always taking my soil back to nothing. Well, if you take carbon, nothing, it dies. Your soil dies. So I try to go up to the max value I can and keep it way up here because we have a really high CEC on our soil, anywhere from 14 to 22 if I remember right. So if I charge my soil all the way up, the crop goes through, it only takes it down to here next to my plant, I fill it back up again. When I mess up and I forget to put the fertilizer in it, which I've done probably twice this season and I've done so in the past as well, I still have this much of a tank and the crop's not going to take it all, so I still didn't deplete my soil all the way, and then I'll build it back up. Nitrogen is really hard to assess how much is there, but if you try to keep it full, you're just fine. Every time I get my soil test back from a state laboratory, they tell me automatically, hey, you have too much nitrogen in your soil, which I think last time it was 144 pounds per acre, which is half of that, 70-some parts per million. Perfect. That's what I was trying to do. I took the test out of it after I fertilized and planted something. The only thing I was interested in that test was the pH, but they tested that as well because it was all part of the package. So that was awesome. Exactly what I wanted to see. I think I put down 100, which means I already had 50 in it. So that's exactly what I want. I mean, you don't want to push it and have 400 or 500 pounds of nitrogen in your soil. That just get crazy stupid, and it'll probably cause things not to grow anyways. So why worry about it? Let's see here. I think I got time for one more because it's almost approaching 6 o'clock here. Sorry I was late. Like I said, my computer decided to start updating itself. Lock me out of my OBS or whatever I'm using here. Streamlab. And when I do it on my phone, it's stupid and it's sideways, and I just don't like it, so I just don't. Well, that looks like about all I have, unless anybody's going to push in any questions. I think I'm going to wrap this one up. I will put the survey in the link, because I'd really like to get good data. I need at least 100 to 200 different farms from different places around the country to make a good data pool to get a good assessment of the market garden community and how basically healthy it is. 1,000 would be great. 2,000 would be great. Either way, I just need, well, I don't need, but I really want to get a solid picture of this because I really have a feeling that the market garden community is not doing as good as everybody thinks it is, and they just think that they're the only ones that are having problems right now. But I really, really believe this is a more widespread phenomenon because I can tell you right now, the majority of my customers, they are retired. They were at retirement age. Now they are. Cost of living's gone up dramatically. Their Social Security and pensions have not. Stocks are still floating about even, so we're not really thinking about that. But it's basically money got tighter, so now they don't have money to go out and spend the extra 50 cents on our product. When it's a healthier product, they can go to the grocery store and buy whatever and not have to worry about it. And this is even compared to 2019 before the pandemic, because I had some people that are questioning that to begin with. And no, I mean, 2019, we were selling 4 times as much. We actually have a bigger stand now, more varieties of produce. We're selling less. So what does that tell you? It tells me that people don't have the money they did, or are just not willing to spend the money they had. So this could be a major, major issue with the small farms. I hope everybody's prospering out there and doing well. As always,